Hello and welcome back to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here. I am really excited about today because this has been coming up everywhere, like being reflected back to me, just in conversation and my experiences. Like I can't get away from this. And this is one of my favorite things to talk about. And that is shifting your perspective. Like it sounds so simple, but this episode honestly might be a little bit scattered. I opened up to like, what is the message behind this and what needs to be shared because I was clearly in it where I was being gifted these perspectives that really just amplified my power and my freedom of choice. And it felt so cool. So of course I wanted to share, but I wanted to make sure I was sharing it in a way that is ready to be heard and not just so personal. I know the personal stories are very important as well. But I want to share a few experiences and then we'll talk about the importance of opening up to new perspectives and putting yourself in positions where you're able to experience different perspectives. And then that allows you that space to decide, what perspective do I want to experience this in, like whether that is the day or a meeting or a relationship or a job, like whatever it is, it just opens up more choices on how we want to show up when we're able to see different perspectives. So I'm going to talk about a few different things because recently I've been having so much fun with music and this was not really intentional. The type of person that I am is I'm just very open. Like every morning I asked to be surprised. I asked to show me what's possible. I asked to be divinely guided. Like I am ready. And it really sets me up to just see very beautiful things, like very magical things that are right in front of everybody. And so anyway, music, I know music is such a powerhouse for a lot of people, right? Like music helps us feel, helps us not feel, helps us, like set the mood, set a frequency. You feel it in more than just your physical body and more than just your ears, right? So we all know music is amazing, but recently I'm a big fan of shuffle. I'm a big fan of like let's just like this playlist looks good, let's try it out and see what comes up, and I really tune into the frequencies and the lyrics, but I've been listening to just different music and there's been these opportunities where it just takes me back, right? Like music takes us back sometimes, very memorable. And I'm back at this experience or like this memory that I have, or in general, like lately it's been about like periods of my life. So I'm like back in this period of my life where it's not like just a day or event, but I have this perception of the version of me in that part of my life. But these songs that I'm listening to, like there's no specific song, and I'm not going to share like a specific song, but I've really been taken back to these experiences with a different perspective. Like I'm seeing myself with a different perspective, and it's like a whole new experience because if I'm holding on to, one perspective of what happened and I'm carrying that, there's a certain energetic frequency. And sometimes there's a cord that we hold on to, right? Based off of what we think happened, what we feel about what happened. And music has really been shifting, like I feel like just new perspectives drop in, right? And I don't have to do anything. This is very healing in a sense, but it's not like, oh, now I have something I need to do or figure out. This isn't it. This is like literally I'm taken back to a time period of my life where my perspective is just shifting to feel more empowered. So music has been making me like feel really expansive lately. And it's because of just like allowing the words to mean more than what it might say, allowing the music to hit you in ways that you can't explain, right? Like it's really opening up to what you need to see and hear and witness and experience. And like I wasn't even so my most recent example of this was in regards to my divorce, my just I guess that relationship specifically. Um there was this song that was talking about it, and for as at peace I am with all of my relationships in my life and all the transitions that I've been through, there was still another perspective that I hadn't tried on. And this song just brought me that perspective. And I was like, wow, like, I think I like this one more, And that's what you get to do. Like, if another perspective comes in, you might not have I like that perspective. So I'm going to choose that. You might have like the opposite. But we're going to talk more about this in another example. But like, the thing is, the more perspectives you're open up to, the more you get to choose from, right? The more aware you are, like your limitless availability of perspectives, the less you feel like stuck or like, I guess this is what I have to do, right? Like, I never feel like I rarely say, I shouldn't say never. I rarely feel like I say, it's just what I have to do. Unless I'm talking about my intuition, but I'm like, I don't know why I'm doing this, but sometimes like, your intuition will sometimes give you that same type of feeling of like, I don't know why I'm doing this, but this is what I have to do. And that is a choice of knowing like where the growth and expansion is versus like, I have to do this because this is my only choice. It's a big difference. So anyway, I wanted to share that piece about music. I would love to hear your experiences with music and like how that serves you. And really, like, I haven't always had this connection with music, and like it'd be very overwhelming to like get that with every song. Like that doesn't happen, every song. It's just been happening more lately, I would say in the last 2 weeks, where I'm like hypersensitive to just receiving messages and something that like I've already heard, like music, right? Like it was a song I already had heard, but just hearing it differently. That's the same. Like, think about it this way, and maybe maybe this isn't relatable to everyone either. Not everyone, but like when I became a parent, like every song I listened to after that, I I heard through the lens of a parent as well, not just an individual, not just a daughter, not just like you're every time you step into new roles, every time you step into new situations, you're adding on more perspectives for you to consume things, to digest things, to view things, like anything, including your perceptions. So I remember like music, and they just keep saying, talk about music, sing it out. I'm not singing, but my perception with music changed a lot as a parent because like every love song, I'm like, this could definitely be about you and your child, like you can take any perspective on a song. Like there's so many. So I think that's a fun way to kind of play like with how you consume music. Like what are you picking up on? Like like is it the music or is it the lyrics? Is it both? Like I'm definitely both type of person. Um and like, like think about like get curious about that, because it's just like you get to like the more you get curious and the more you recognize like, oh, there's this perspective of this song, but I could also think about it in this way and apply it to my life this way. And how this activated me was like, what was the song? I'm going to try to think of the song. It was Midnight Rain by Taylor Swift. And like it's not even applicable to what's happening for me. I love the song. And I didn't like it's so interesting how like you can't explain when a song takes you somewhere, but it just does, even if like that song wasn't from that time period. Like that's the power of frequency work. That's the power of energy. So anyway, it was really powerful to just say like, oh, this is a perspective I can choose to view that past relationship from. And it felt so good to just be like a gift, like, hey, think about this perspective. And I think why I find so much joy in this is honestly because I think I do this for people. And I think that's why you're here probably on this podcast, because I have a lot of consistent energy to just have ideas. And for me, yeah, I have gate 11 in the ajna, which is the ideas, right? Like having these unique ideas. And I think a part of that is fueling my desire to have different perspectives. Like for me, I think that goes hand in hand. Like I get more ideas flowing when I am intentional about like being able to see different perspectives. And over the years, I've noticed when I am more open to not even choosing a different perspective, but just seeing what other perspectives there are, I move a lot faster. And I don't just mean that with like time, like 3D time. I mean that with all things. Like I can expand time, right? So if I set the intention of, I want to be open to all perspectives. I mean, that's a little bit overwhelming, but I want to be open to the highest vibration and potential of my perspectives. And, you're not going to step into perspectives that like are going to harm you, right? Like you're setting the intention that this is for your highest good, to see multiple perspectives. So you get to choose. You define how you want this to work for you. And so having that intention of like, I don't want to just settle with what I think I already know. I want to see what I don't know so then I can choose. And a lot of people aren't ready to open up to this because then they have to choose, right? Like we give away our power when we decide to not look at all the other perspectives. We're giving away our power and our freedom when we're like, this is what we know and this is the only option we're going to see. Like, okay, that might be for your highest good in that situation. Especially if you are aware that there's other perspectives out there, right? So I'm going to talk about like health and fitness kind of for a little bit, because I think this is the easiest, I don't want to say the easiest, the like best example for me to digest this concept. I really wanted to start with music because it's just like my soul right now is loving the music. So yeah, I have had many relationships. All the different versions of me have had lots of relationships and perspectives on health and fitness, like working out. Let's stick with working out. I have many perspectives on why I work out. And some people, that might overwhelm them, right? Like that, it might seem like, well, why do I can't have all of these perspectives. That's one of the limiting beliefs that I've had in the past. And I work a lot with people is, if I have all these perspectives, then how do I know how to show up? How do I know which one is true for me? And for me, that was really just clean slating that. And it's like, you can hold space for multiple perspectives, and this and that can be true. Like they all can be true. They all can be your truth. And we have to honor and be honest with when certain perspectives align and when they don't. So that's the key. And I think that's where people really just get it's comfort, right? It's safety that keeps us in one perspective. And sometimes it does serve us to stay in I mean, if you're stuck in one perspective and you're recognizing like, okay, I'm ready to shift this, like there is the need to honor how that has served you, right? Like you need to celebrate, like, this perspective has served me for so long and I'm grateful for it doing X, Y, and Z for me. And a lot of times you'll recognize it kept you safe, it kept you like kind of comfortable and knowing like what's coming next. And sometimes we need that. So anyway, the more you I don't know what I was saying before that, but health and fitness. We're gonna look at working out. So I've had that's what I was saying. A lot of people get stuck on like there's like that line of like I'm comfortable and I know this works and I know this perspective like the back of my hand, and then opening up to multiple, well, now you have to trust yourself to choose the perfect perspective and then follow through, like, so taking action with that, which sometimes means communicating things and setting boundaries, or like just doing something different. That can be very intimidating for some people. But if you're here, I'm guessing like you're all into this, and just bear with me. We're going to get through this health and fitness example, because working out, I have had many perspectives over the years. And we can think about what we hear and what we're told and what's recommended. So working out, like moving my body. I want to work out because it's in my workout plan and it's on my calendar. I work out because the doctor tells me it's good for me. It's going to help me live longer. I work out because I want to change my physical appearance. I work out because it's a good way to increase energy and move energy. I work out for my mental health, which could go with I work out for moving emotions, feeling emotions. I work out as a social activity. Okay, there's a lot of reasons why I may work out, why I choose to work out. These are perspectives. Okay? So how does it serve me to have all these perspectives? And like somebody could have all these perspectives and then not serve them, or beliefs. I want like beliefs and perspectives in this example we might kind of interchange, because this is to get curious about your beliefs. Because if I have all those beliefs, which I have all those beliefs within me, different versions of me show up with these beliefs at different times, but they all serve me, because majority of the time I am sitting in the vibration that I am working out, I'm moving my body because it feels good and I am ready for my body to show me what it's capable of. I often sit in the vibration of I move because it is a great way for me to move unwanted energy, stuck energy, releasing energy. Those are the two perspectives I choose most when it comes to working out, because that is what works for me to honestly have fun with it and stay consistent and like show up for myself. Now, I will say for discipline, the perspective of I'm going to work out because it's on my calendar does come in handy. Like it is very helpful sometimes. And, the perspective of this is for my like overall well-being. Like I know that, like I have proof of that, because my overall well-being is better when I'm regularly moving my body. And I'm not talking about like a specific workout routine. Like I'm talking about like just moving your body, working out. Physical activity. So I'm not the person that will get rid of beliefs if I know that they serve me at some point, right? Like, and that's where I have fun with brain rewiring and working with limiting beliefs, because one's limiting belief may limit them. It may feel like, oh, it's because of this belief I actually don't do X, Y, and Z. Okay. Does that mean you like scratch it out? Not necessarily. I mean, it depends on what it is, right? But it's like, oh, I work out because it's on my schedule. That's not the only reason why I'm working out. But that belief and that perspective does come in handy when, I need that to step into. And sometimes my 3D human self really just needs that kind of checklist type of vibe at times. So think about it this way, is like, if you have all these perspectives, you get to show up and like you're willingly like saying like, allow me to step into the perspective that is for my highest good. Right? So the more you set this intention, it's not effort, okay? It is intention. So setting the intention is going to open you up to more perspectives. Taking action or like following through with a different perspective is what's really going to open you up to like having that confidence of saying, like, anything in my life, I know I'm the creator of, and I get to choose how I show up to it. Because the more you do this, the more you set the intention, the more perspectives that are just going to drop in, right? I've been doing this intentionally for a couple years now. And that's why when I can put on a song, it takes me to a specific memory that may or may not be needing more attention right now, and literally gifts me a perspective like I'm just driving in the car, And I think that's so empowering. I'm open to that, but it doesn't have to look like that. If you want to just feel good about being able to slow down and see the potential of ways to show up, we think about this like with jobs. Maybe like there's something unsettling at your job right now. What perspectives are you shutting off to? Closing off. What perspectives do you need to shift right now to help create that ease and that confidence to show up and create the environment or the experience that you desire? A lot of this is getting clear on what you desire. A lot of us are content on saying I'm unhappy, but we're not really sure what it is. If you're not quite ready to unravel that, just open up to new perspectives. Because stepping into a new perspective might illuminate really clearly like what it is that's unsettling. And then if you're opening up to new perspectives, okay, you're going to highlight the root of what's unsettling. And it might not even be your job, for one. And maybe it is something at your job, but it's something that like either the perspective alone resolved it, or now you have the clarity of, okay, like what action can I take? Opening up for perspectives. It's an intention. It's not something you have to work out or figure out. Part of this is practicing listening to people, or to others. I mean, it doesn't have to be like in person, but part of this is listening without projecting. Listening without thinking, oh, how you agree or disagree. And that itself is a practice. But the reason this is so exciting and motivating to me is essentially because this is the root of the empowered choice. Feeling empowered in your choice. And that's if you decide, no matter what you decide. Okay, so the more perspectives you're open up to, and you're still aware of, okay, this is the perspective I came into this situation as. Maybe it's my ego, right? Maybe it's my mind. And it is very rooted in safety and what's familiar and I like the routine, right? Or yeah, like what's predictable. So you recognize that as a perspective, and then you're opening up and you see all these other perspectives. And now it's like they're out on the table. It's like you have a whole like toolbox of perspectives you can choose from. And if you set the intention to have your higher self pick your perspectives all day long, you'll know which one. And this isn't always in your mind, right? This is also intuitive flow. And so if you can see all of that, you know that there's no right or wrong. You're removing the 3D hierarchy of what perspective is right or wrong. Like that's what really you're doing when you're opening up to different perspectives. So when you do that and then you choose, this perspective that was over here initially from your ego, like great. Because it's still an empowered choice because you looked at all your options. So I want to be clear that like this isn't saying open up to new perspectives to choose away from your ego. Like you may still very resonate and feel like like what your ego and your mind is saying is for your highest good, is for your intuitive knowing says this is it, right? Because there's no right or wrong. It is what is for my highest good at this moment. Living in the now and trusting that. And that's what I call the empowered choice. This is really how you experience freedom. When people say I feel stuck in my job, I mean, I meet them where they're at, of course. But if they're coming to me to work with me and they talk about their job, and I mean, I tell this with my kids too on a lot of things, but what we choose, what frequency we're choosing to show up in says a lot about what we desire. So if they're feeling stuck at their job, like maybe they want out of their job or maybe they just want something in their job to shift. I mean, most of the time they come to me and they say what they want out of their job, and then we kind of pull back a lot of the layers, and it's not even a matter of leaving their job. But because their perspective at that moment is this isn't right, this isn't right, this isn't right, like not in alignment, right? They see all that and they think their only perspective, their only option is to turn over here and start new. Now, that is an option, right? That's a valid option. I've done that myself. But what if like the root of what is making your job feel not great is not something that needs to be turned away from? And so if it's not addressed, then you go get another job, you might actually manifest that same situation at the new job, that same energy, that same frequency. Okay, so opening up to new perspectives, it's like, yeah, you might at the end of the day still decide you want to leave your job, but opening up to the other perspectives, I will tell you, I've talked to so many people about like changing jobs, shifting careers, and I mean, like a lot of people are spot on when they're like, I just need to leave, but there are a handful of people that it's just like, it's easy to want to burn things down. It's easy to want to turn away. And I'm 100%, that's how I live my life a lot. And so I support that when it feels like that is the best decision for you. But oftentimes we choose that not looking at the other perspectives. So really like empowering yourself by being open. Like, I think about this, like having an open mind, which is so funny because I have a defined head in Ajna. And so oftentimes like this may come across as like not being able to be influenced very well, or like changing like their beliefs. And it's something that I have really found the value in. Like I know what I know, like I know what is in alignment for me, and like that has been what has allowed me to be really confident with like, okay, this is the perspective I'm choosing now. Because I do see it as like, yes, it's different, but like I'm so convicted in my way of like how I want to feel in my decisions that like my perspective is huge. And so if I need to shift my perspective and it's going to serve me, then I'm going to do that. So, being able to create habits that help you slow down, that help you open up for different perspectives to drop in. For me, this wasn't overnight. This is pulling cards. I would say oracle card. I mean, the tarot deck is amazing. I'll always recommend tarot deck. But oracle cards are great for opening up to new perspectives, because oftentimes they are of love and light, and they're very descriptive. There's lots of words to hold on to like resonate with. That was a big thing for me, because it took concepts like grief and like anger, lower vibrational emotions, and really transformed them to me. And it allowed me to step into my multidimensionality through pulling cards, and through connecting with my spirit team, and through talking to people who are like very open and spiritual, but who might not see things the way I see things. There's so much value in interconnecting with people who do not agree with you, like who don't necessarily sit on the same frequency as you. It's not like you have to like work with them or like be best friends with them or anything like that, but like, what does that experience show you? So yeah, this has really changed my life, because you can do this on the smallest level, and you can do this on the grandest level. Okay, like this can be like shifting your daily habits because you're opening up to different perspectives. And I gave some examples, but to start, you really want to get curious about why you're doing the things you're doing. I always recommend doing like an inventory of where you're putting your energy, and yeah, just being honest about like, why do you do these things and how do you feel about it? Because you're going to recognize the parts that you avoid, or the things that you say you do because you have to. And those are the things that I really encourage you to open up to different perspectives, because, I do it because I have to is a perspective that I hold on to at times. It serves my human self, right? It doesn't necessarily serve my other dimension me's, the versions of me in other dimensions, but like that part of me doesn't have that, like, so it's like really stepping into your multidimensionality when you can say, okay, I have this perspective right now, but it's not feeling right in this situation. And like, I do this all the time with my kids, because I will come in with a perspective and I am hit with resistance, and I'm like, okay, like, is it my perspective that needs to shift? And sometimes it's not. Like, sometimes I'm like, you know what? I'm sticking with this, and this is what we're doing, kids. And sometimes it's a matter of stepping away, and I'm like, wow, I need to shift. Like, I see the other perspective. Often for me, it's really going to depend on how you are. Like, there's a lot of dynamics that I could talk about that play into this, but for me, like, I am a second line, so the retreat is huge for me. Like, I need to be alone to sometimes see the other perspective. Now, doing this like for a few years, and just like being open, like I don't miss a lot. Like I've trained myself to pay attention, and that is a big thing, is like, if you're setting the intention for things to come to you, you gotta pay attention, so get curious about, the things that you do, why you do them. Get really curious about the things that you think you have to do. And I'll just say this now, for parents listening, I know we love our kids, and I know that our language and the things we say out of habit sometimes can get us in the frequency of thinking like, well, we have to do this because they're our kids. And like I said before, that is one perspective. So expanding beyond that and opening up to more perspectives. Because the frequency of I have to do this for you because you're my kid is different than I'm doing this with you because I love you. Like, it's just different. It's not right or wrong. It's not this or that. It could be both. And you could hold space for both of those perspectives. That's not for everyone. The next person, your spouse, your partner, your maybe close friend who's also a parent, might hold a completely different perspective, where you can really tune in is like, is this perspective rooted in love? Is this perspective rooted in fear? Those are common questions I ask myself all the time, because I mean, I don't, at a certain point, you won't have to ask yourself that. But like, if you ever are like, I don't know, your intuition's not going to choose fear. I will tell you that. So if the fear is coming from like having to take action, that's not the fear of the decision. So we're talking about choosing a different perspective. It's not like having fear of like, okay, what's going to happen if I choose this perspective? It is the perspective itself rooted in fear? I'm doing this for you because you're my kid and I have to. Like, that's fear. Because what is it? Like, depending on what it is, it's like, well, what happens if you don't do it? Will somebody else do it? Does it need to be done? A lot of fear will keep us doing things that we don't need to do, or that don't need to be done right now. So, but I'm going to do this with you because I love you and I care about you and I love our relationship. I mean, well, I just said love like 3 times, but definitely rooted in love, right? Or wait, let me think of another example. I'll try to think of another example before we wrap up with that. But, ask yourself, like, is this perspective, am I approaching this with love? And oftentimes it will be our perspective that is just rooted in one or the other. I mean, usually fear, where it's like out of habit or routine, or like think about past life things. So if you're and that's why the power of slowing down and asking yourself, like, why am I doing this? Why am I responding in this way? Why does this emotion keep coming up for me? Maybe it's the perspective you're choosing, and so there's lots of curiosity around this, but there's so much value in stepping into different perspectives and opening up to different perspectives. And you do this through exposure, right? Like you open up and you take your power, like you claim your power of saying, I can receive different perspectives and still choose what is for my highest good. And you do that through intuition. So, okay. I think I feel complete at that. We'll wrap up there, and the deep breath. But okay. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this. And if you did, go ahead and tag me on social media at the Intuition Playground if you feel called to share the show, or if you just want to send it to a family friend or a loved one who might want to hear this message. I would appreciate that as well. So, once again, thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next time on the Intuition Playground.